The following video contains spoilers for all of Season 1 of Invincible. If you haven't watched it yet, why the hell not?
Even though you've been raised as a human being, you are not one of them. They can be a great people, Kal-El, they wish to be. They only lack the light to show the way.
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards. They will race behind you. They will stumble. They will fall. But in time, they will join you in the sun, Cal.
She was my world. And you took her from me.
Now that's a punchline.
What happened to Metropolis can never be allowed to occur again.
You'll throw away everything the Justice League stands for.
You don't seem to understand. Earth isn't yours to conquer.
So here's a hot take. Superman is my favorite superhero ever. Don't give me that look. He may be the most iconic comic book figure of all time, but in the last 20 years, Superman has continuously struggled to find a foothold in the ever-expanding mountain of superhero culture, especially post-Iron Man, and nowadays you'll see many more people name Captain America, Black Widow, Black Panther, the Hulk, Iron Man, Wonder Woman, Thor, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Deadpool, and lest we forget Batman as their favorite superheroes rather than the last son of Krypton himself. And that's not really something I can blame anyone for because, yeah, all of the above and more have had much more enjoyable and successful superhero renaissance runs than Superman has. That's not something I relish, for the character to be clear, nothing wrong with getting more good superhero movies, but something I've grown to accept. I love Henry Cavill's Kal-El, but I get why most people don't. Christopher Reeve is probably always going to be the best to ever do it, and Brandon Routh carries his torch as best as anyone possibly could. But what was once the most obvious slam dunk franchise or storytelling success is now all but avoided by the higher-ups at Warner Media for being too difficult to fully realize. I guess the simple optimism of truth, justice, and the American way just doesn't feel as earnest now as it did 50 years ago, at least in some people's eyes. I wouldn't mind that so much if it wasn't coupled with the fact that anytime someone does want to pull the Man of Steel off the shelf nowadays, the only trick they want to pull, the only way they believe they can make him interesting to an audience is by asking, but what if he turned evil? Look, I get it. The appeal is self-explanatory. The establishing dynamic of his character is inverted, so that the human soul in an alien body that motivates Kal-El to protect the people of Earth is the same one that breaks and sparks the impulse instead to subjugate them. The strongest man on the planet, the singular unifying symbol of peace and justice and global security, reaches the breaking point everyone hoped to God he just didn't have, and for once gives in to the emotions he had previously risen above by burying his humanity altogether and making the instant about-face from savior of humanity to space Hitler because he can. How do other heroes, and more importantly humanity as a whole, respond or fight back against a being with virtually unlimited power and nothing to lose? On paper, that works. Once. As the little what-if plot that's compelling one-off that both showcases the strengths and abilities of your lesser heroes and dives into Superman's character weaknesses when he's emotionally isolated. But here's the thing. That's not Superman. That's everything Superman is not, and that's the point. It's the exception, not the rule. Superman can be a great character if you're bold enough to let his goodness guide your story. But if all he's going to be in every version is Space Hitler, that's just conceding to let him be the least interesting version of himself. It's a trend that's picking up even outside of DC Comics. Homelander from The Boys is another iteration of the evil Superman. But while he's a wonderful antagonist with a terrific performance by Anthony Starr, the Seven all feel like a deliberate finger in the eye of the Justice League, and specifically Warner's depictions of them. Or hey, does anyone remember Brightburn? But then there's Omni-Man. What a character. What an incredible melding of performance and pacing and presentation. Nolan Grayson isn't just the best evil Superman we've ever gotten, he's the only one I want to see for a very, very long time. Omni-Man is powerful, compelling, charismatic, and completely original. His evil Superman does far more damage and packs a far greater punch than 1,000 movies ever could. He's the exception that proves the rule and one of the best comic book villains we've ever gotten. So today, I want to break down what makes Omni-Man such a terrifyingly effective character, and how we react to and fight back against a villain who is truly... Number 1. Omni-Man is not Superman. Pretty self-explanatory and even contradictory to the intro, but let me explain. Nolan Grayson has everything he needs to get us to connect the dots to Superman while distinctly remaining his own character. He's got the suit, the cape, the powers, and the job as a writer. But all of those are generic enough that the show can feign ignorance and say none of those are specific to Superman. Any similarities to persons living or dead is purely coincidental, yada yada. Also, look at how, unlike Superman, Omni-Man does nothing to hide his identity, but he still manages to maintain it. The pilot of Invincible, It's About Time, is about one thing above all: misdirection. It opens on a villain attack at the White House by the Mauler twins and the Guardians of the Globe swooping in to save the day. One look at the 7 heroes tells us everything we need to know about them, and everyone thinks it at the exact same time. Got it. This is the equivalent of the Justice League. It's an unavoidable comparison and a deliberate choice by the creators. Here's our Batman, here's our Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, etc. Just like the ones you know, they're the strongest heroes on the planet and the defenders of justice and the innocent. They capture the Mauler twins and look cool doing it, and just as we do our head count and think, hey wait, where's their Superman? He appears. Boom. I absolutely love how this character introduction simultaneously adds to the misdirection and foreshadows Nolan's true feelings. It's clear from the jump that he's not a member of the Guardians, but they work together and like each other, and we can pretty easily assume he's got a perfectly good reason not to be part of the team. Oh hey, there it is, he's got a family. The episode is all about making us believe we know exactly what we're watching until we don't. That the Guardians are the Justice League and Omni-Man is Superman until the moment that they're not. About giving us a comfortable foothold in this world of superheroes and aliens and teenagers before kicking it out from under us. Holy shit. Oh, did you think you knew what kind of show this was? Think again. The effect and takeaway are abundantly clear. The conventions and limitations set by decades of serialized superhero stories do not apply here. No one is safe, nothing is off limits, and people are not who they appear to be. Omni-Man has everything he needs to remind us of Superman, to invoke all the questions that accompany his existence, but ignore the differences at your own peril. Number 2. Power. For all its spectacle and self-aggrandizement, the intrigue of the evil Superman always boils down to one idea. How does the human race regard and respond to unstoppable power? How do we grapple with the fact that we are not the apex species, and more to the point, we never were? This question lies at the heart of Invincible's world and phenomenal human characters. Throughout the first season, we see our superheroes contrasted against images of landmarks and symbols of monuments of power. The White House, Mount Rushmore, Buckingham Palace, etc. Everything that comes to mind when we think about power and what people do with it, all of it so easily toppled when face to face with a being of such immense strength and determination.
It's about power. That building has one purpose, to say I'm the queen and you are my subjects.
Huh. You think so?
The queen might look like a nice old lady, but she comes from a long line of tyrants who all thought they were better than the rest of us.
Dad!
Just like the audience, Cecil knows Nolan killed the Guardians, but hopes to God he had a good reason. But on the chance he didn't, he has to develop a contingency plan for Omni-Man so that the Earth isn't defenseless against him if he's gone rogue. Fighter jets, satellite lasers, cyborgs, and even a genetically modified kaiju just to stand a fraction of a chance against him. And none of it even comes close.
What would they need to mimic a fraction of our power?
$400 billion for the world's most expensive nosebleed.
Number 3. Perspective. Invincible's secret weapon, and what makes it completely magnetic and endlessly compelling to me, is its use of perspective as a storytelling tool. Go back and rewatch the first season. How many scenes are there that are seen through the eyes of the most knowledgeable or powerful person in the room? Our audience surrogate and protagonist is Mark, but Mark is an idiot. He's brash, he's naive, he's overeager to grow up, and he's positively railroaded again and again by the consequences of all of the above. pun intended. He's always the last to know what's going on because so are we. When we're with Mark, we do not feel safe or powerful. We're on our toes because every fight can turn ugly, fast. But even when he's with Amber, he's clearly not the one holding power in a conversation. Okay, let me phrase that question a different way. How many scenes do we see from Omni-Man's point of view? 0. That's right, none. He's the most powerful being on the planet, and that power is kept far away from us. Between Mark, Debbie, Damien Darkblood, the Guardians of the Globe, Cecil, or even just helpless bystanders, we are only ever at best a witness to Omni-Man's presence, at worst a victim of it. This is genius storytelling on 2 levels. 1. Omni-Man never feels less than larger than life. It's what makes him an awe-inspiring hero and a terrifying villain. Nothing can stop this man from saving people's lives, and nothing can stop him from ending them by the 1,000. Throughout the first season, it never loses that effect. Every conversation with Omni-Man is a battle, either with a physical presence in the show or of mental calculus with the audience. How much of a threat does Nolan represent at this moment? What about this one? We don't know what he's playing at or his reasons until the end, and thanks to J.K. Simmons' incredible voice work, until that final mask-off moment, we can convince ourselves he's doing whatever he's doing for the right reason.
God, what do we do?
We stay together as a family. You, me, and Mark. All you have to do is trust me.
Nolan!
Do you trust me, Debbie?
There's a dragon behind you!
Please, do you trust me?
I trust you.
You have no idea how much I needed to hear you say that.
2. Everything on this show is filtered and felt through a human context. Pop quiz. What is the most consistent idea in the first season of Invincible, connecting almost every one of its character arcs together? Trust and betrayal. Season 1 is a story about who we trust, both with our lives and our secrets. How we start to depend on that trust because the alternative is too uncomfortable to consider, and the consequences and raw, uncompromising anguish experienced when that dependence and trust is betrayed. It's about the way we won't believe something inconvenient until we're forced to reckon with it, but by then it's already too late. And it's about the guilt we feel in the aftermath for trusting them at all. The Guardians trusted Nolan and even called him their friend. They welcomed him when he arrived on Earth and took him at his word. They believed his intentions were good, but no one even considered that a being as powerful as he is might not be on their side. The same goes for Cecil. He knows Omni-Man killed the Guardians, but he trusts Nolan enough to believe he had a good reason up until the moment he couldn't anymore. But by that point, thousands are dead. He's sent good soldiers to their deaths, billions of dollars in tech and weaponry are lost, and Mark and Debbie's family is permanently broken, and they are both psychologically traumatized. All because he didn't act quick enough. Eve trusts Rex as her partner and teammate, and Rex betrays her by cheating on her with Duplicate. Robot betrays the team and Rex's trust by stealing his DNA to clone his body. The Mauler twins trust Robot enough to go along with his plan, and he betrays them by giving them faulty intelligence and trying to send them back to prison. Amber puts her trust in Mark as her boyfriend, and he's really, really bad at it. Then he tries to get out of jail with her by telling her he's a superhero, which fails hilariously because figuring out he's a superhero ages ago only meant that Mark didn't trust Amber with his secret, so he kept treating her like an idiot. Of course she's still pissed at him. How could anyone not be after learning that? Hashtag Amber did nothing wrong. Passive storytelling is boring. It's one of the worst things a writer can do. We don't like characters who just react to things. We like the ones who can shape the plot through their character and their choices. When a writer takes power or agency away from their protagonist, it's usually to hand it to a peripheral character in the scene who can explain a new or difficult concept to them both. But Invincible doesn't then return that power in the following scene. Instead, it lingers on that feeling of powerlessness or inexperience and lets it seep into its DNA, allowing that feeling to then become an essential part of each character's identity and their arc. Yes, Mark is a dumbass and a bad superhero and a terrible boyfriend, and he is told this by everyone. That is the point. He knows his weaknesses and is forced to sit face to face with them. That knowledge unfolds into doubt, blocking him from achieving his goals. Debbie has Nolan's actions or lies or true feelings explained to her, and then she has to grapple with the fact that she didn't know it before. That she's known this man for 20 years. That she trusts him with her life and she couldn't see who he truly is. That her life is not what she previously believed it was. That is what betrayal feels like. So vulnerable, so naked, so unstable, so... what's the word? Oh yeah. Human. It is that humanity, that inextinguishable spark of empathy and vulnerability that makes Mark our protagonist. It's why Mark can be a nearly invincible alien but still make every fight feel tense. It's what makes him relatable to us and makes him pick a fight he knows he can't win against his real-life hero. Nolan's betrayal of Mark is the only one that takes its sweet time, and it's the one that hurts the most. Even though not every scene involving Omni-Man is witnessed from Mark's perspective, we as the audience still filter them through it. Nolan's drawn-out heel turn isn't just about the imperialistic apocalypse with which he threatens the planet. It's about slowly losing your trust and faith in a loved one. About gradually coming to terms with the cognizance that your loving, faithful husband and father has been a physically abusive, gaslighting narcissist all along. About seeing your domestic stability and safety get poisoned by a trickle of doubt. Doubt that slowly eats away at the love in your heart until that love is gone and leaves only terror in its place. Omni-Man was everything Mark wanted to be and told he could be for his entire life. A paragon of truth, justice, bravery, structure, morality, might. The very incarnation of power and the ideal model of how to use it. A comic book ideal came to life. He spent his entire adolescence waiting for the day he got his powers for the chance to be half the icon and protector his dad was. Someone Mark loved, who he believed loved him. Loved humanity, loved being a hero. To Mark, Nolan was Superman. Not just as the heroic world-saving icon, but also the way any boy growing up thinks of his dad as, and that was ripped away from him in the cruelest way imaginable.
How could you do this?
That was your fault. Your stubbornness against the inevitable killed those people. And what were they doing with those fragile little lives anyway? Listen to what I'm saying. You know in your heart I'm right.
Right? About how pathetic and pointless humanity is? Is Mom's life worthless?
In the grand scheme of things, yes.
Debbie.
The train scene is a hauntingly visceral display of willful cruelty for the sake of proving a point. It's so grotesque and traumatic and evil that it's impossible for Mark's entire life not to be reframed or recontextualized in an instant.
These people are meaningless. They're cavemen without us.
By the end of their horrific battle, Mark has been forcibly dragged to the soul-shredding recognition that everything, every happy memory he ever shared with his father, every baseball game, science project, family vacation, superhero training session, even his very being born, was nothing more than a means to an end. Just Nolan biding his time, running on autopilot. That he's nearly as replaceable as one of the Mauler twins and just as easily discarded.
You want to die for this planet? Fine! What's 17 more years? I can always start again. Make another kid.
That battle ends with so much carnage and casualty and trauma that it forces Mark, Cecil, the entire world, and the audience to reevaluate how they think about the Superman. How much they all trusted him and why, and what it says about them that they never saw it coming. It leaves the world a much different, much more vulnerable, much scarier place than what it started as. It's a world where life counts for nothing, innocents die, power reigns supreme, and a hero's concept of objective good feels like a child's fantasy, where no one can be counted on because even the hero who saved your life has his own sick agenda to do so, where we have to ask if we can even believe in heroes anymore, or is that just too big of a risk? Where we have to walk down the street a little faster, clutch our valuables a little tighter, keep our emotions a little more guarded, trust a little less. It's a world where the bad guys win. These are the parameters an evil Superman story inherently forces us to confront, and Invincible is the only story since the comic book movie boom to touch on them in a significant way. It's not about what singular moment of horror and loss would spark such an about-face in an all-powerful Boy Scout. It's not about his relationship to Batman or the Justice League, or even about the capitalistic implications of his human greed. It's about us.
The people.
That about face means he was never that squeaky clean, but we fell for it anyway. What the world of Invincible experiences in its closing minutes is what the trauma of losing faith in your hero and protector does to you as a person and a society. Superman is a reflection of the most basic collective values we hold and instill in each other. He's a promise and a reminder that there is still good in the world. Good in ordinary people, because it was ordinary people who instilled the good in him. Superman turning evil is an implication, an assertion that those values never existed and we were fools to believe they did. He isn't made some uncomplicated milquetoast boring schlub because he's too morally righteous to be corrupted by human emotion or temptation. The fact that he's so outstandingly virtuous is what makes him so interesting in the first place, and I am so very tired of the endless iterations and storytellers who can't understand that. A Superman who goes evil is like a Batman who kills. Once that line is crossed, they lose the most integral part of what makes them worth focusing on in the first place. They start being just like every other one-dimensional villain or cliched, edgy anti-hero we turn to comic book heroes to avoid. Invincible and Omni-Man are a breath of fresh air with the only evil Superman story arc I truly believe and I'm genuinely invested in because it's the only one that seems to understand that. I'm so glad this show exists, and I can't wait to see where the story takes us. Whether Omni-Man can be redeemed or not in the coming seasons, I hope Robert Kirkman and the showrunners can maintain that essence of the spirit of Superman, because frankly, they're the only ones who are.